good morning. I know that speaking about Sweden exiting EU triggers people. I learned that from my first video, speaking about it, and I was just ranting in that video, I remember. I was just speaking like freely, and it was something that just came to my mind, and it was the first time I actually got quite upsetting comments. Like, it wasn't upsetting for me, but I understood that people truly are afraid of like exiting EU, because everybody says that, look at England, what happened to England. Like, England were a template of what happens if you're exiting EU. It has become that. Greenland exited EU in 1982, and we haven't heard anything about that. They belong to Denmark, I think. Denmark is still in EU, but it wasn't a mess. It was handled. We haven't heard about it. So, and I also know, like briefly overall, that England exiting EU had absolutely nothing to do with EU. I kind of put those pieces of the puzzle together a long time ago, and I just thought that people knew this, and that speaking about exiting EU wouldn't be such a triggering or fearful thing. But people seem to have that in mind every time you speak about this. So I remember when England exited, I were at a coffee shop the other day where I used to live, and a British man kind of peeked in, and when like he opened the door, do I dare to show myself? And everybody kind of knew him, so there was just, very cheerful bunch of people, and they was just, okay, how crazy have you people gotten overnight? And he said that, I still remember this, and this is some time ago, and he said that firstly they lost in football, and that was embarrassing enough. And then he said that they had done, like they were asking people the day after Brexit how they voted and why, and everybody was like, yeah, Brexit, woohoo. And then they asked, like, why, or what is EU, and what did you actually vote for? And people just didn't know. They was just all for Brexit, but they didn't know why. They had absolutely no clue. And I still remember that. So, and then all the like messy stuff happened, and everybody kind of blamed it on EU, and that is not true. Like, they're exiting EU. I knew like this much, and then I saw the comments where people just, yeah, good luck, look what happened to England. And I was just, do you not know that that has nothing to do with exiting EU? England was in a really bad shape when they were in EU. France and Germany is in really bad shape when they are in EU. It has nothing to do with EU. And it has to do with each individual country's way of handling money and having an ideology that does not work. They have pushed for like a mindset that is the wrong mindset. It doesn't work in reality. It is what it is, and that is like their business. But it has absolutely nothing to do with EU, except that EU, for some reason, 10 years ago, decided that all the EU countries should take in, what was it, like 1 million immigrants or something. And that is what kind of started this whole like speech about immigration and stuff, and why we are in the position that we are in and wants to. With this immigration thing, the crimes came in Sweden. So we let in, like, immigration is difficult because, like, if we let in one or two or three kind of criminals that is kind of disguised as immigration, and we speak about immigration as a whole, like 10 people are good people, 3 of them are bad, but we didn't, like the 3, we didn't pick them up and throw them out because we didn't know what to do. We didn't have a template for how to kind of handle the immigration. Like the 10 people over there are fine, but the 3 criminals over there, we didn't like pick them out and then couldn't throw them out or something. And that is why, I don't know, I'm ranting again. That is why we kind of ended up in this. And I did ask AI yesterday, okay, what's the deal with, like, give me the real. And I did know that Boris Johnson was a mess, and I did know that, because if you watch the British in Parliament, you know that they yell at each other, they kind of scream and they kind of hush each other, and you don't really get a say if you don't have, if the opposite party like don't want you to say it, they are going to yell and scream. And that happened a lot, I remember, because I saw some video of it, or it was on the news back then. And now AI said that, yeah, no, that happened a lot. Like, they didn't know what to do. I didn't know that the Irish border thing was a thing. And I'm going to put what my AI said up here, so you can read for yourself, like the steps that made England exiting Brexit such a mess. And where was I? I knew some of it, I didn't know all of it, and I'm not sure how they, like, one of the things that England kind of was concerned with was the immigration thing. They wanted the immigration thing to stop. And that didn't happen because they thought that, yeah, but didn't we exited EU? It should stop now. And the immigration thing had nothing to do with the EU, because in England they have this human rights law that, was it Tony Blair or Cameron or one of the guys, like a long time ago, put in place? Or if it was it Keir Starmer a while ago, because he's like a human rights lawyer or something, that they put in place. It is like a human rights law of some sort that is in England that prevents them from actually doing anything about their immigration thing. They are kind of blocked because of this human rights law that says something, like, even if you are illegally in this country, you have the human right to access pretty much everything, if I understand it correctly. So the British became more and more frustrated and angry because they thought that this issue would automatically just sort itself out just because they exited EU. And that didn't came true. And when the British are frustrated, angry, it just becomes a mess. They aren't particularly organized people. They are very tempered, like, it doesn't go well. And it was interesting to kind of notice that people would say, look what happened to England, and then compare it to Sweden, the Swedish people. Like, we are nothing alike. It's like saying, okay, it's 2 people that's going to move. One is extremely organized. Like they label everything, they start early, they discuss things, they have their strategy, their processes, they have a consensus, like everybody is chapping in. You know when the day comes, how, like when the car comes that going to take your stuff somewhere, and you know the route, you know what you're going to eat, you know, like, you know, we're just going to take a pizza or something, you know, it's moving day. And the other one, like nothing of it. They don't pack until the last day. They have absolutely they don't eat for the whole day. They are delayed. they say that it will start like 8 o'clock in the morning. They start at 12 because they haven't done all the things that they need to do. And that happened in England. It took them 4 years to exit EU. Do I think that would happen to Sweden? No. It's like, that is what we are talking about. Like, England is England. It's messy, it's emotional. They think a lot of this will kind of fix all our problems. And that had absolutely nothing to do with EU at all. The Swedish people would be more educated of the matter. The Swedish government would put out more information. It would be calmer. It would be a rational decision that, we want to take back like who we are in the world, which is pretty much what exiting EU would be for Sweden. Like, who are we? What do we want? We have the biggest trade country in EU is Germany. Okay, what kind of a relationship, what do we need to kind of put in place to have that work smoothly? Do we still want to be in Schengen, which is how we can move without any hassle in EU? And Norway isn't in EU and they seem to work fine. They have something that called EEA, which is their trading. And would Sweden want to be in that? Or do we want to like craft out our own, like a completely blank slate? These are the countries that we trade most with. And do we want, like, is there other countries out there that we want to kind of focus on or work with, or like so on and so forth? And I think that is what my cards kind of said when I laid, and it became like this hopeful and new, inspiring thing again, that we actually can craft out what suits us and not what suits EU. And there is other stuff that we need to kind of address, like defense, and I think it was like 6 questions that Sweden needs to ask itself, and how they are going to. And I don't think the English did any of this. I think it was just a moment of frustration, a feeling, should we get out of Brexit? Yes, said the English people, or the Brits that had no idea what they were voting for. And then there was no foundation laid in the government at all about how to do this. Okay, what do we want to be in Schengen? That might have been like a good question to ask for the British people. Like, we want to move as we want to move. And I do remember that there were some people that either lived in Spain. British people kind of had, if you're home during the day, a day in a place in the sun or something that is shown on daytime TV. I used to watch it when I were at the gym a lot during the day, and like British people were purchasing houses in Spain, and if I remember correctly, they kind of ended up in trouble, like from day one of, like, they should have been like out of EU. And they didn't know, and no one had told them that they weren't allowed to be in Spain any longer because England hadn't really figured that one out. So you need to, and my AI kind of pointed it out too, that yeah, people that live abroad, like don't forget them. All of a sudden, like the Spanish people is coming knocking on their door and say, yeah, no, you can have this house. I think they have sorted out now, but it was a thing, and it was quite upsetting for the British people. And I understand that if you are like retiring in Spain and then this happens, like Spain is saying that yeah, no, you can't be here any longer and you have to go back to England. And like Sweden needs to discuss all of these things and need to take it kind of slowly and not create fear from it. There is we are moving towards polarization here, and it comes up constantly over and over again. Either we be getting dragged into EU even more because EU wants more control. It wants a more authoritarian way of handling. They want all the European countries to be like EU, like we are Europeans, and not necessarily I'm Swedish. And I used to feel like, yeah, no, I'm a proud European, but as the more I kind of watch everybody, all the countries down there, I kind of understand how different we are from the countries down there. The countries down there have so much history together, and they're kind of fighting, and they're kind of petty, and they're kind of, but they're still, they have history together. Sweden is kind of on our own. We have Norway and in some way Finland, but Finland is so attached to what is happening down there with Germany and France, and like all of them have the same, I guess, you know, when you are, now we are the odd one out. The Swedes are the odd one out. Everybody down there has like gone in school together. They know each other's families. They have all the, and it becomes more and more clear to me how kind of off we actually are. We are not that interested, and that I think is a big mistake the Swedish government would do, is that they just think that the Swedish people actually know what EU is and what it does and what the meaning of it is. Swedish people don't know, and we don't care. We are not that interested in it. And if you have a referendum, you kind of have to build up some sort of knowledge first, like what it is and what EU wants to go and where they want to go. Like they want to be more an authoritarian, like basically telling us that, yeah, no, you can't decide over your borders. We decide over your borders. You can't decide over your economy. We decide over your economy. Like if we want to take a loan in your name or in your countries, then we are going to take a loan, because that is what like being in this union is all about. That we use your credit score to take a bigger loan, maybe to pay France, maybe to, like, because it's a thing. I could see you come to that conclusion, or in the future, to be honest, that yeah, no, we need to help France because France doesn't want, I don't know how to, they are supposed to get out of that debt, like kind of stuck, but they are discussing, yeah, no, we need to take away one holiday, or we need to, and you need to work a year more before you can retire. And the French are are really upset by it, and their retirement age is not even near what the Swedish people have. I think it's like 65 and we are up at 67. So it's not like they are working up till they are 70 or something, and like really making an effort here, or like make any kind of change that would actually... It's like they need to pay their rent, so they are unsubscribing to Netflix. That is pretty much what the French are doing. And I can see the possibility that EU feels, because they are kind of... France and Germany is like EU. It's the cool kids that kind of runs the place. And they are very attached, and it's like... And both France and Germany is in deep financial debt and doesn't take care of its own country at all. So I can see that how they handle the Russian assets, how they want to steal the Russian assets, while saying it's not stealing, and even if the Russians are kind of suing Belgium in court outside of EU doesn't recognize a court case outside of EU, so that you don't have to actually be worried about it. So there's all kinds of things that EU are saying now that makes me believe that if Sweden gets pushed in with the euro or the euro, and then we are kind of having a joint financial thing going on with all of the other countries down there. There's nothing that protects us from EU doing the same thing, because EU has a chip on the shoulder for Sweden. I can't really kind of point out what it is. I just know it. It's there. It's like they don't like us that much. Maybe because we don't agree. Maybe we are more silent. Maybe we have an attitude, because when we don't like something, you know it, even if we don't say it. And there is, and maybe that crack, maybe it's because the far right is winning more and more ground in Sweden, and EU doesn't like that. It can be that they have a bad feeling that Sweden is going to be like not with them in the future or something. Maybe we aren't today, but I haven't heard anything. Like Jimmy Åkesson hasn't really spoken about it. And my concerns is that EU somehow, because they say stuff that sounds a certain way, it sounds good, fine, and then it is something completely different. Like if we get dragged in with the euro and financially, and they want access to the Swedish bank account, and they can just take money and do whatever they want, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually one day just, we need to save France. Here you go, France, and you don't have to pay us back. And the Swedish people that are already extremely taxated, but we are still kind of managing, need to pay for France, because they don't want to do what they need to do, if you get what I'm saying. Like we need to save them in some way. It's like their bailout. And that is what my concern are, to be honest. I've seen how they handle stuff. If they had more morals, if they had more like, we can do this, or if they had shown more of diplomacy, like, okay, we can continue this war. What are we doing here? We need to start to speak with the Russians, and we need like an investment, a pretty large investment in Europe has been blown up, and we don't address it. Like, it's fine, it's Germany's like energy. it's a pretty big thing. And EU just now, because it becomes, I think, just uncomfortable to know that the Ukrainians all over the place blowing up stuff. And I call them Europe's terrorists because they seem to always be caught with a bunch of dynamite or explosives, or I don't know what you call it today. And no one says anything. And, Zelensky says like the most crazy stuff ever. And he threatens EU countries, and he is all over the place. And EU doesn't, like, if EU had more morals, if EU had more, wait a minute here, we kind of need, we might not agree with certain countries, but they're still EU members, you can't do that. Or wait a minute, Ukraine actually blew up one of our big investments that cost a lot of money, and like, if they cared, if they didn't do all this shady stuff and didn't, that comes out also, it's not a secret, it is completely like out in the open. And I think I probably wouldn't have been so cautious, I guess, with this, if I felt like, they are like morally fine, they don't steal stuff, they don't go into bank accounts and take money, they don't, and they do all of it. Like, they do all of it. So I don't know, if it feels like Sweden would do really good on its own. Like, we would do fine. We would handle all of this really good. We need to discuss it. I don't know if it's going to be brought up in some way. If Sverigedemokraterna perhaps actually is going to take this issue and shine light on it, they need to have a really good rhetoric around it and educate the Swedish people. And also how, like, I think Alexander spoke about, I listened to him this morning, that Kaja Kallas is like the top diplomat in EU, and she has done absolutely nothing diplomatic at all since she started. And I've said this before, she has only spoken about sanctions, tariffs, and punishment, and the Russians are the most horrible people on planet Earth, and they should be like eliminated completely. Like, we should chop up their country, we should like regime change, we should, like, it's like crazy stuff. And she's supposed to be a diplomat. And I've said this before, for me that is like I'm not with that at all. And it is worrisome to hear like who they kind of put in those positions and what they say, and that you actually can mend things with the Russians. They're not that bad. And we trade, what was it? We pay 100 or more, 187 billion euros, I think, for gas and oil from Russia. And there is trains from Russia coming into Estonia, of all places, with goods that the Europeans have bought from the Russians. And Zelensky says that he has found made in England, made in Britain, whatever it says, on things that is attached to the drones that the Russians are kind of attacking Ukraine with. So all of the like rhetoric is pretty much BS from the European Union. And I have a problem with that. I'm sorry, I just do. I just feel like you can't trust them I like hand over the Swedish budget to these people? No, I would not, because they would make sure that we have a bunch of more loans. It would make sure that we pay for a war that we don't want. Like, it's done. It's a done deal. Like, just sit down and talk about it. And they are kind of stubbornly refusing to, even if they are supposed to be like the top diplomat of the European Union. And I just feel like nothing is sacred. Nothing is like, I don't think Estonia gives a crap about Sweden, to be completely honest. Well, no, you have money, you can pay, like, take a loan so we kind of save someone else. And I don't feel like the Swedish people actually deserves that. I'm sorry, I don't. We might not be, like, maybe we are introverted, maybe we live here on our own little bubble, on our own little island, but we are not messy. We are not out there attacking other countries, attacking other people. We have a really big problem with crime that came with a decision that EU made us do 10 years ago. And we need to focus on that. And if we actually take the money that we like pour out of the country on all of these like insane stuff, we can actually clean it up. Because I asked and I look at it, and we don't need that much. It was like 10 billion or something, which is nothing of what we actually give to the EU and what we actually give to everybody else to build up their country. And this would have been fine, I guess, if we didn't have the crime thing, and that the clock is ticking, and we are kind of headed towards a tipping point, we too, that we need to actually focus on this. And if we focus on this, and if the Swedes actually work together with an intelligent entity that actually knows stuff, which the Brits, the France, Germany do not do. Like, we will not get any help whatsoever from them. You have to find who actually knows stuff and can help with it. Then it actually can be cleaned up. And that is the truth. And EU couldn't care less. Like, they just, no, that's not our problem. Give us more money for Ukraine. I'm sorry, I do have a problem with it. And knowing now, going through how you just need to have a strategy. You just need to talk. You have 6 questions Sweden needs to ask itself. You need to have a referendum with, should we get out of EU? Yes or no? Okay, should we stay in Schengen? Yes or no? Should we have AAE? Yes or no? And the Swedish people would kind of, and something, probably more questions than that. And then they have like a template of what to work with and what the Swedish, and then have like information and discussions about it. The British did nothing of it. They just acted, and then they kind of tried to kind of solve the puzzle, or whatever you would like to call it, after the effect. So this is my talk for today. Whether a rant, I don't know. People say that. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's just me speaking. I have absolutely no idea where I will go. But follow, subscribe, comment if you want to. This is not such a triggering thing, to be honest. It's more you need to decide if we want to be more nationalistic, if we want to be more Sweden, like we are Swedish, we want to have trade partners with whom we feel like we want to have trade partners with. Maybe we want more like a Nordic thing happening, because we are more like, we all know it, like Denmark, Norway, Finland, Iceland. It's us. It's more like we don't have much in common with the rest of EU. Not to say that we aren't European, but I do still feel like we belong to Europe. However, what I have understood is the kind of divided thing happening, that they have so much history together down there that we do not share at all. And it does matter how you handle things, how you feel like you want to help out, and how much of a like we are the good students, while the countries down there like France and Germany, I don't know how, like Italy, I think too, I think Portugal and Spain also, Canada doesn't do the hard work. They are just managing and then hope for the best, I guess. And that Sweden is just not that at all. I think this issue is going to come up in some way. Either we are going to start to hear the discussion of Sweden joining euro or euro, and like some kind of joint financial banking system, and we are going to feel like EU wants more power over us and what we should do and think in our bank account. And I do think that Sweden needs to start discussing this and be more interested in it, and eventually decide what actually we want. And hopefully we do it, as I said, beautifully, with a good process, and hopefully exiting, actually, because I did see more hope, more like an adventurous thing we can decide for ourselves. Someone said like exiting EU would be like putting sanctions on us. No, like countries do exist outside of EU and they are working quite fine. They just have to decide which country they want to have trade with or who is important. Like Germany is important for Sweden, and the Netherlands is important for Sweden. The rest of the EU countries aren't that important. Like, okay, some Denmark probably or something, but you need to find the countries that you want to have a relationship with, and you need to make that relationship work for us and for them, obviously, and not have this joint if EU didn't do what they do now, I wouldn't think this way, I might add. I have followed them for some time now, and they sound crazy. They don't, there's no diplomacy whatsoever. We should cut out like everything that has to do with one of the biggest neighbors we have, because of an argument, an issue that Ukraine, like, they shelled and bombed their own people. They wanted to erase the Russian language, the Russian culture, and those people, it was like 80% Russian people in Ukraine. Like, are we serious? We are supposed to shut out Russia completely because of that. Is it worth it? The rhetoric the EU leaders are say that, yeah, no, we should just not have anything to do with them at all. I disagree. I still disagree. And I will not change my mind about that. No matter what the EU, I have absolutely no respect for the EU leaders. They have, like, the rhetoric is just insane in so many different ways that I'm not on board with it. So that was my little speech for today. Thank you for watching if you have watched this far, and I do hope that you have a good weekend.